Hello and welcome to Drop the Mic Podcast, where we discuss technology, theology, and all things in between. I want to personally thank you for joining us today. Now sit back, relax, share this, engage with the podcast that's already in progress. God bless you. All right, I'm back. Let's run this part two. We fixed the system. And this time I want to make sure it's right. I'm not gonna come giving y'all, half-hearted stuff. I'm coming here giving y'all my best. We're not gonna mail nothing in. Right? We're gonna give it all. For real. Do me a huge favor. Again, share this particular link to who it needs to be shared to. We'll cancel that other one. Get that out of here. All right, so we're talking about performative. What's good, man? Take two. Yeah, far better. I told you we're not gonna have bait. We gonna come in here and we're gonna give y'all the best. We're gonna figure out what's going on, and we're gonna come in here and not mail it in like some of these other podcasts when folks be sitting up in there, with the lampshade off for lights. No, we don't do that here. Excellence is the floor here. We're going to give y'all the best. And if we can't find the best, we're not going to come up on here. So forgive me for not presenting our best effort. We're going to continue to do better. And do me a favor and share this out with somebody else that need to hear it. There's some folks out here that need to hear this good truth. Especially some of these would-be leaders who claim that they for the kingdom, but it looked like they lining out something else. We got to address that. We got to bring that out. Let's talk about that. And I don't want to dance tonight. I don't want to skate. I ain't got nothing to hide.
This is why worship leaders are becoming pastors, and this is
this video.
Why pastors want to become singers.
That pastor right there want to say it. He got a word for y'all. He got a word in his belly. Listen to what this pastor.
This is why worship leaders are becoming pastors.
Pastor Adidas. I gotta make sure I don't hit that play. Let's look at what Pastor Adidas says. Let's just consider it for our hearing. All right. Here we go. Let's get there.
This is why worship leaders are becoming pastors. And this is why pastors want to become singers. Because if you're a true worshiper, in your worship development, God will give you a word. But that don't mean you're supposed to pastor people. This is why pastors now, they don't want to preach to people. They want to write jingles. Everybody want their little 30-second jingle that everybody can shout to, and the people are dying while you're writing jingles. Because if you are a pastor, when you go in worship, God will give you a song, but that don't mean you up for a Stella. That means you're supposed to feed the sheep. God didn't change the assignment. You did. What's your point? Just because God gives you a moment, that's not your ministry. He just gave you a moment. He let you prophesy. You ain't no prophet. He gave you a jingle to praise him with. You are not a psalmist. You don't need no record. You don't need no CD. You don't need no tape. You don't need no MP3. You need to get right back in children's ministry where you belong.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with this pastor. I'm so glad I could bring y'all clips. These clips are a blessing. I don't disagree with that pastor. I don't disagree with that. There are some leaders who claim that they are called of God. Now, I've been taught by a couple of different pastors. Let me give it to you some iterations. Frederick Douglass Haynes III, pastor of Friendship West Baptist Church, the Wild Wild West, says it like this. We must inspect the rootage and the fruitage. Okay. I think Rev Douglas West equally says something different. Tim Ross says it like this. We must be inspectors of the root and the fruit. Now, it's very clear to me that some of y'all are called of God. You out here doing the work of the ministry. Some of y'all doing it right. And I want to salute you for doing it right. And who I'm talking about is these multifaceted ministers or minstrels. These are people who can equally pastor and minister the gospel through song or through men or through, harps or anything like that. Right. But you got to ask the pivotal question, though. Everybody ain't trying to preach and pastor for purpose. Some of them are strictly performative. So this pastor Dita said, hey, listen. Yes, because you got in your word, you got a song in your heart and in your belly. You were able to prophesy. You're able to operate and flow in your gifts. That does not mean that you need to start a ministry tomorrow. That ain't what that means. Nah, that ain't what that means. I've seen several local pastors in the Metroplex who have attempted to pastor a church because they were really good singers. When in all fairness, what they lacked in their pastoring is not preaching prowess or anointing. It was administration. They were poor administrators. Okay. So my hope tonight is that we have a clean conversation and that we find our lane in this thing that we call the work of the ministry. I know for a fact I'm not called to sing nothing. That ain't my flow. Never have been, never, probably never will be, right? I'm not a singer. Now, can I carry a note? Can I hold worship up? Can I forward and progress worship? Absolutely. Been taught how to do that, know how to do that, learn from the best. But do you want me to go record an album in my house? No. That's not my calling. I am called to use my creative genius, to being an orator to the body of Christ. I'm called to that. So it's just real suspicious looking when you see that leader who can sing the house down and then 2 months later open a church. Now, I'm not saying that person is not called to it. I'm saying that everybody shouldn't be doing it. We should, when it comes to planting a church or pastoring a church, we should proceed with caution and not through the performative lens that we think. And so we get performative mixed up with purpose, right? And it's not always the case. So we got to do better job with it. Look what that says. Preaching is easy. Got to be able to minister to the needs of people. Pastoral care is a different beast altogether, without doubt. But most of the people that we're watching, they want something else. Zach says, sounds like divine calling and personal desire is being confused. Yes, one person named Paul Fisher from New Hope Baptist Church was saying like this: God called you to go pee. He didn't call you to go preach. And so we got to really get down to the crux of why we are called to do what we're doing. Because many of us in this game, in the preaching ministry, serving the people of God, doing it the right way, and y'all are overlooking them because they don't perform like the other people, and not knowing that plays at the psyche of those who are doing it to the best of their ability, because you like the shucking and jiving, the samboing. And it ain't all God, man. Now, I'm up for a good worship experience, but when that worship experience is void of the Spirit of God, it is performative. And we got to move past that. God is calling us to higher, pushing us to new levels. And we trying to shuck and jive. That's not going to work. So I'm going to shift my gears a little bit. Because now this certain leader comes out front talking all this, saying, he watched the Stellars. Y'all can go look up his Instagram and look all that up. Watch the Stellars. Didn't appreciate the Stellars because the Stellars resembled the world. Didn't have no oil, so to speak. was lacking, it was a little lackluster, right? And then that person comes right back around and basically gives an invitation to his online ministry that he wants y'all to help him with and be members of. And so I had to ask the question, was this a part of your performative rollout? Or did God truly speak and say that you needed to open or do a digital ministry? Because see, a digital ministry looks different than one that's brick and mortar. You got to be tech savvy. You got to have constant content. You have to be able to push the narrative digitally where you can't physically touch people. That is a different beast. And those of us who desire to do it this way, let me tell you, you better have a whole crew ready to help you do the work because it's heavy lifting behind the scenes. Yeah, it's a whole different ball game when you can get up there and perform. But man, when you get behind them scenes and you got to do this stuff on your own, the game looks different. And so I got to bring you in to homie court because you know better as an elder. And you need to lead the way God is telling you. And he is telling you, if he's telling you to lead that way, cool. Here's what I want to say to you. You need to abandon the system that you have participated in for all of these years that was rooted in the performative era. And I'll wait. Because see, you talked about a system that you were also a participant in and benefited from, and yet you want to disrespect. I can't disrespect my heritage, where I'm from, the churches I've worked for, the churches I was baptized in. I would never do that, right? There's a thing called loyalty that's at stake. But some of y'all ain't got that. And it's very clear to me that you want God in all his luster through the performative lens. You don't want it through purpose. And this has nothing to do with acumen or education. This has everything to do with motive. Our motive of doing this very thing. That's the difference between performative and purpose. Motive. Motive. Straight up and down. Pastor Watson says, people will acknowledge that they are called, but don't know their assignment. Now that's a you called and don't know your assignment. There was a time when I grew up, and this ain't been long ago, that before we could even preach, man, we had to go through some rigors to acknowledge that our election was sure. Let me sip my water. We had to go through some rigors to acknowledge that the election was sure. And it wasn't about hazing in the rigors. It was about that when we put this person up, we know for certain that God has called him or her to said ministry. And this is not a performance or an act of attention. This is an act of obedience. Right? And so that's what we are seeing. And so this brother says what he's saying. Right? But then he never says that he's going to abandon ship. So there's another pastor, a leader, who says something like, hey, man, all them tapes y'all got of mine, throw them away. But yet does nothing to reconcile the very things that he had done to people as a result of said teaching. Now, you can walk that teaching back, but that teaching has to be rooted in reconciliation because you had messed up something behind the scenes, Rob. It's always the Qs talking about they getting hazed. Thank y'all for the comments. Keep the comments coming. Get in the comments section. Drop your questions about the topic. Please, please, please. I've already played the clip. The clip was dope. I think I may want to play it again for those who are just now coming in, because I think it's an important clip. And I think this leader, I've never heard him before up until today. I've seen the clip, has something really valuable to say. And yeah, I just think that we need, as the old folks say, we need to take heed. Y'all ain't been taking heed lately. We need to take heed to what's said. So I'm going to play this clip again. I think it's worth playing. Let's get it up. Told y'all we bring y'all the best, man. We ain't playing. Clip coming right up.
This is why worship leaders are becoming pastors. And this is why pastors want to become singers. Because if you're a true worshiper, in your worship development, God will give you a word. But that don't mean you're supposed to pastor people. This is why pastors now, they don't want to preach to people. They want to write jingles. Everybody want their little 30-second jingle that everybody can shout to, and the people are dying while you writing jingles. Because if you are a pastor, when you go in worship, God will give you a song, but that don't mean you up for a Stella. That means you're supposed to feed the sheep. God didn't change the assignment. You did. What's your point? Just because God gives you a moment, that's not your ministry. He just gave you a moment. He let you prophesy. You ain't no prophet. He gave you a jingle to praise him with. You are not a psalmist. You don't need no record. You don't need no CD. You don't need no tape. You don't need no MP3. You need to get right back in children's ministry where you belong. This is why worship leaders.
And it's a lot of us that need to get right back in children's ministry where we belong. We need that. We need to be discipled again. We need somebody to help us and help navigate and disciple us along the way. I want to be a person like Enoch in the Bible, that when somebody sees my footsteps, they look like Jesus's. And they're like, hey, I got to take you up, man. You lock step with me. And it's not enough of that. But we are seeing is the classic age that performance matters more than purpose. I pray to God that changes. I pray to God that we can do something different with that. And I pray God sends the right leaders and people to the body that deserve, that have been prayed over, that have fasted, that has done the necessary work, that have been the counseling, that God will push them forward and not these clowns. Because we got a lot of dudes and women that don't take this thing seriously. The Bible talks about make your election sure. And the only election that y'all are sure about is the lotto, and that's because somebody chose the numbers for you. You just knew you was going to get that billion. Oh. Okay. You just knew you was going to get that billy. Then you woke up the next day, it was all the way in on the other side of town. Not even for you. Thank you, Monty, for joining us today. I think it's important, man, that we get back to the as what we would learn in seminary, the centrality of the matter. Jesus is the center. That's the motive. That's why we do what we do. I am so elated that I get a chance to go work at a church all the time because that's what I love to do. And those who know me, like this lady right here, her name Mary Coates. She was there when I accepted my call in the ministry. And those who know me know that this has always been a part of my life. This is one thing I have not wavered on, right? And that is doing the work of the kingdom. Making sure that I please God in what I'm doing as a believer. discipling people along the way, and being able to serve and be obedient in whatever state I'm in. Now watch this too. So I'm older now, and God sends people now for me to disciple and help lead and help motivate and push to their next level. And I'm okay with that. Now watch this. And I'm not sitting in the front in the number one chair. Because see, some of y'all, not me, not a few of my homies that's on here, some of you want to sit in the number one chair, but you haven't perfected the number two chair. Go find my boy Nate Stewart's book about sitting in the number two chair, or being the assistant pastor or assistant leader, or the second chariot. Go read some of those books to help you navigate being second in command or third or fourth or fifth. Because everybody not going to be first. Everybody's not going to pastor. Some of us are called to simply equip the body of Christ. And we need to be okay with that. We need to stop doing the storefront joints if God ain't called you to that. Just cut it out. Cut the nonsense. We just need to be very real about it. Because what I am seeing across the season is that some of you are using churches as safe harbors to funnel your money, to do your nonsense. And God ain't even pleased with none of that. Sorry. I am so glad that I'm not on some of y'all payrolls, because y'all would have been calling me talking about shut up. Nope. It's important, man. We are so fearful to tell the truth. We are so fearful to not operate in our purpose that we just love to do the performative. And I'm not saying that something that is regional, that we should stop it. What I am saying is, if your motive ain't right, partner, woman or man, stop it. Just cut it out. Because there are souls at stake, man. I think we forget that. Let's back it up. Our job is to see and win some to Christ. Paul talks about, I become all things so that I may do what? Win some to Christ. That's what I was supposed to do, right? Win some. I have to go into certain areas, become a little of this, a little of that, to win some for Christ. That's the goal. Some of y'all are becoming monsters and trying to raise up monsters because you're trying to build up your own kingdom. Man, this feel like the book of James. This feel like 2 Peter. I mean, it's an honest conversation that's worth having. And I'm not knocking any pastor or leader who God has given you great gifts. God don't give everybody them gifts. He gave you some dope stuff. I'm not knocking that. What I am challenging is when God gave it to you, what did your heart do when it happened? That's what I'm challenging. That's what we need to kind of sit with, rest in that. Because we got so much we could be doing, right? And let me also say this while I'm here. Those of y'all who operate in the rebellious spirit, I don't know why I'm going this direction. Those of y'all who operate in the rebellious spirit, and because somebody told you no in this season, you felt led to do something different. You're going to have more work ahead of you than peace. Count the cost if you feel led to go start a ministry. It's a lot of costs, administrative costs, building costs, musician costs, overhead. Count the cost. right? Before you jump out there. Because there's a lot of weight that comes with disobedience. It's a lot of weight. And I would much rather sit in a pew without the title of pastor, without having that weight on my shoulders, that responsibility, than be disobedient to God. And let me tell you, just as just real, I've always had the passion to pastor. And what God showed me was the way that I would pastor would be different than everybody else. I may not pastor in a customary pulpit, so to speak. I'm not knocking it if it happens. But at this time, my pulpit looks different than yours. And I have to be okay with that. So that whenever God calls, I am settled in my spirit on who I am and who he's made me. So if God needs me to speak on a podcast or speak in a small setting, then that's my pulpit for the day. And so I'm no longer married to the idea, right? Because I know some leaders, they get right into that scope. I don't know why I'm telling you this. They get right into this rut that I'm waiting to pastor. I'm waiting to pastor a church. And God is saying, but I've given you a current vineyard and you won't even be faithful over that. Be found faithful, y'all, because that is what matters in this season. With all of this stuff happening and exposure and people falling by the wayside, cheating on their significant others, their spouses, just doing the most, COVID, monkeypox, all types of stuff happening. The least you can do is be faithful to God. That's the absolute least you can do. Be faithful to your spouse if you marry, right? If you can't do that, go be by yourself. And some of y'all got a problem with that. That's a whole nother conversation. But I think it's important. Thank you, Pastor Fisher. Can y'all make sure y'all support Pastor Earl Fisher and the blackest church in Shelby County, the Abyssinia Baptist Church? Salute, King. That's my brother, for real. For real. Yeah, we can't be doing this. We can't be playing it. We have a responsibility to make sure that we're leading God's people appropriately, that they can see the face of God through our actions, through our love, through the message, through the hope of Jesus, period. And so we can move from the performative and move to something more purposeful, more long-standing. And I want to say this to the pastor who you think nobody sees you because you don't have the same horn that somebody else has. Man, I see you. It's a lot of churches I watch. God sees you. You've been faithful. Continue to be faithful. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Be faithful where you at. Be faithful what God has planted you. Because that's what you're responsible for. You ain't responsible for these other clowns who, quote unquote, conflate their numbers. You're not responsible for folks saying, oh, because y'all are doing this, I'm going to start a ministry. You're not responsible for that. What you are responsible for is what God assigned you to. And that's the main thing, right? That is the main thing, y'all. That's my heart, for real. I want to see people change. But what I don't want to see is all of this performative that has kind of taken precedent over the purposeful, over the work that people like Dr. Fisher is doing, over the work that, discipleship pastor in Sweet Home, Arkansas, Dr. S.K. Watson is doing, over the work, a chaplaincy work that Rob Tollison is doing. These men are doing the labor-intensive work. And yet, you want to go to that 3,000-seater and try to hide because you don't feel like they have arrived yet. God's hand is on them and the church that you're trying to go to. Just make sure we honor that. Let's make sure that we have a heart for God. Let's make sure that we're operating in purpose. Let's make sure that we are honoring those who are serving well. And man, let's do away with the clowns. Listen, I've been reading first, second Peter, and how they be talking about these false prophets. Yo, we playing it way too close. We don't call nothing out. Everything is cool. I can't do that. I have a responsibility to lead people where Jesus is and tell folks over here, hey man, this is a clown. You need not to waste your time there. And that's not disrespect. Come on, let me hear what Dr. Fisher say. Hear what Dr. Fisher say. Folks desire the superficial celebrities more than substantial service. Come on, man. It's about popularity over prophecy. Y'all gonna get these preachers wired up. Y'all gonna get these dudes turned. And I love them. And I've served with them. And we've been in the trenches together. And we're not knocking nobody that's getting they just due. Nah, ain't no knock. Nah. We gonna support that. We gonna honor you for that. Ain't no hate like that. Right? So I use Pastor Earl. Pastor Earl's my dude. Me and Pastor Earl used to speak at youth conference together in Little Rock. Before churches, before all that other stuff. S.K. Watson gave me my first coaching job as an AAU coach. These dudes been doing the work. And he was pastoring in. Right? These cats have been doing the work. Let's honor them, man. Let's show them some love. Let's do right by them. Because they deserve it. They've earned it. And we see y'all. For real. And for all the clowns that's all about the jingles, you all about the extra stuff, let me tell you, God gonna take care of you. And it's not a rant. I'm not mad at nobody. Ooh, Earl. This is so dope. I'm not anti-mega church. I'm not anti-superficial church. No, I'm anti-superficial church chasing celebrity status. That is it, man. I'm going to leave this up. That's where it's at. There's some of us out here that's really doing the work, man. That's where it's at. That statement right there. Y'all read it again. Dr. Earl Fisher, because I know on my other podcast on the playback, I want to make sure we say that. Dr. Earl J. Fisher says this. I'm not anti-mega church. I'm anti-superficial chasing celebrity status. That's the breakdown. One is rooted in performative. The other is rooted in purpose. I went over my time. Any questions, put them in the chat real quick. Oh, let me get some guys. That's for Earl right there. Orange, that's for Earl. Give him some gunshots, man. He in the chat clown. Going off. Thank y'all again for coming. Y'all know this is Thursday. It's Thursday for 30. We come in, I share what's on my heart, what God is kind of saying to me, to y'all, and be a blessing. Listen, I have great news. We can clap to this. We are now on all podcasting channels. Salute, salute, salute. Thank y'all so much for supporting what I do. So if you want to hear the playback, go to our podcast. It's going to be up. It should be up probably sometime tomorrow. You can definitely hear it on Spotify, Apple, Pandora, the whole 9 yards. It's because of y'all. Last week we did an offering. The last time we did it, I sold back into the community and then put back there so we can get this back up and running and people can have this information at any time. So you can go to Buzzsprout. You can go to Apple Podcasts. I Am There, the digital theologian, DK Hammonds, Drop the Mic podcast. Hey, if y'all want to come on anytime, I think I'm gonna go get past the Earl, and he gonna bring some of that richness to the conversation, and just really have some talks, man. I'm gonna reach out to Earl and we get him on here. But I think it's important. So if y'all ever want to hear back the playbacks, because what's happening now, thank you, good brother. I have to take some of this stuff off of Facebook and move it to the podcast. Like some of the digital stuff, the digital technology stuff that we've been discussing and talking about. I have to move that over so you can always hear the replay there. Please go support there. Please go subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. These podcasts will be on Facebook for 24 hours. And after 24 hours, you won't see them anymore. So this conversation, you'd have to hear it on the podcast alone. That's where you can hear the replay. Also, the replay will be on YouTube. So YouTube and on the podcast where you can catch them. Facebook, they'll be gone after 24 hours. So I just want to make sure I tell y'all that so y'all can always catch the playback. And I'm going to actually do some other interviews. It's going to be strictly on the podcast. Nothing will come on here for other information, like conversations about what the digital church is going to look like and how it's starting to yet unfold. Conversations like Pastor Earl and his book that he has. I think that'll be a dope conversation to have. Having conversations with everybody is what we're on, y'all. We're going to bring y'all the dope content. I'm going to get the best folks that we can get to have the best conversations. Y'all know that. So continue to support your boy. I love you. And I appreciate y'all. So just remember, we want substance. Let me get back to Pastor Earl Cole. I'm gonna read that. We not anti-mega church. We are anti-superficial, chasing celebrity status church. We in with that. One love, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Peace. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. My hope is that the podcast added value to your life. Please, please, please subscribe from your favorite application, leave us a review, and even follow us on YouTube for your up-to-date information. Thank you. Peace.